Goldylocks Productions provides professional internet, TV, and radio shows in the spiritual and New Age genre.
Strap yourself in because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
Welcome to In the Psychic Flow. This is a brand new show for me on Blog Talk Radio, Goldylocks Productions. My name is Carolan Carey, and I am your host for the show. This is a brand new experience for me. We're recording today because we had a little technical difficulty, but next week we will be live and taking some callers. I'm just doing some messages right now for you to tell you about myself, not messages, but in any event, I'm talking about myself today, introduce myself a little bit to you. I am the Sarasota Psychic Medium, or the Psychic Medium of Sarasota, SRQ, and we are, the reason I got that name actually was doing a lot of international calls and calls across the U.S. initially. And I started that about 10 years ago. I didn't have any clients when I finished studying for mediumship, which was a couple of years, at the Sarasota Center of Light, which was formerly known as the Shrine of the Master in Sarasota, Florida. I am very grateful for that experience because taking multiple classes and seeing some world-class mediums who came to our center gave me the knowledge and the wisdom and shared their experiences with me, which taught me a lot. This is the only place where most people learn how to do the psychic fair. We have a monthly psychic fair, platform mediumship, also some other things, trance, channeling, things like that, and to see people from all over the world, Lilydale mediums, other mediums from like Switzerland, Germany, England particularly, which you would never get to see unless you travel to England and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it was a great experience. I'm very grateful for that. So that's how I started on this path, and I didn't have any in-person clients initially. So I asked people for referrals across the United States, friends of friends, if they would let me practice via phone. Since I didn't really have anybody or didn't feel confident enough in Sarasota at the time. You know, I did people one-on-one for psychic fairs and stuff like that, but I really needed the practice on the phone, and I didn't have Skype at the time, and I still don't like Skype. It's like trying to read somebody on a TV screen. It doesn't go that well for me. But I do a lot of phone readings, and I became known as that psychic from Sarasota. So I adopted the name. It's not because I think, hey, I'm it, although there are times I do think I'm it, but there are other great mediums here in Sarasota as well. I just adopted the name because a lot of people were calling me from Vietnam, Canada, Brazil, across the U.S., places like that. The U.K. I've done readings for. So that sounds like I'm blowing my own horn, and I guess I am. It's my show, right? I can do that. I just want to say how grateful I am for this opportunity as well with Tiffany, who is a marvelous producer. I have had a show for over a year on SocietyBytesRadio.com. Bytes is B-Y-T-E-S. And I still have some interviews for this month and next month. I have some great guests coming on. And they are short interviews, about 24, 25 minutes a piece. You can look me up. I'm under Global Culture on Society Bytes Radio, and that show is called Psychic Flow. So on there are some marvelous archives, lots of shows, over a year. So if you get bored tonight and you want to listen to some of them, I'd really appreciate what you think of them. That show, I primarily promote other people. I find interesting authors, metaphysical practitioners from all over the world, and ask them to share their experience with me and our listeners. How do you get into metaphysics? How do you know you're psychic? Should I read tarot? What is mediumship? What is paranormal? You know, what are those questions? What is all of this about? Some people are very curious. and don't have the training or the knowledge. So this is one way of presenting that in a global network of people. So that's pretty exciting. But I've switched now to Blog Talk in the Psychic Flow to give myself the live person experience, and hopefully I'm doing okay so far. But I really, really hope that you will call in and enjoy the show, and I'll be taking some callers and presenting some guests and having some fun with it. My other show is more kind of straight, I'm bringing people in that I have not met personally, and some I have and some I haven't, but it's always a little daunting, to try to get some of these big names and not stumble all over yourself. So my early recordings are a little bit iffy. I am the host, but I'm not that great, but my guests are fabulous. So anyway, so that's about me. That's what I do, and that's been about a year and some months, and it was a fabulous experience. I really enjoyed it, learning how to do interviews. But now I think it's time for me. So unfortunately, now you're going to get more of me. I am been in Sarasota for 12 years. It was a life-changing experience. I was self-employed. Now I'm self-employed. Previously, I worked for a medical organization in Sarasota for 12 years. So during the time I've been here, I worked a full-time job. I had a massage business, went to massage school. So I'm a licensed massage therapist, which I don't practice that much anymore, but I did it to use my Reiki healing. I'm a master Reiki as well. Learned that in Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. So I brought that with me, got my license so that you could put your hands on people in the state of Florida. That's always helpful. Became a universal minister, which is not that big a deal, but it allowed me to give talks and to do weddings and to do memorial services and stuff like that. Then I became a medium, a mental medium it's called, and to clarify what all that is about, I got the experience at the Shrine of the Master, now the Sarasota Center of Light, in mental mediumship, which is where we speak to, the medium speaks to those who have departed. Some mental mediums will do a lot of other things as well, but my primary goal was to work with grieving families in bringing their departed loved one through so that they could have maybe the last goodbye, or to tell them how much they love them, or for the departed to say, hey, I've arrived on the other side, I'm okay. And of course, to bring in evidence so that we can validate that this is who I am speaking with. That is my greatest joy, is doing that work, and I feel that's my sole purpose, and I am so delighted to have been able to do that work and to continue doing it. I also do some other things, but we learned about mental mediumship, connecting with loved ones, how to do psychic fair, which is a mixed bag. Some people want to know what the future holds for them, or if I get any psychic impressions. That's why I call myself a psychic medium. I like my spirit work the best, but I do get psychic impressions, and actually your loved ones are very well aware of what's going on and can give some great advice as well. So it's a mixed reading with me, but people seem to enjoy it. Some people at Psychic Fair prefer to deal with the past and the current situation rather than speak to dear dead Aunt Anna, So that's why I mix it up a little bit. I learned about physical mediumship as well, channeling, trance, psychometry, healing as well. I took some healing courses there too, and it really provided me with a great background. For some people that had experience previously and maybe were trained elsewhere or not trained at all, the class is a little difficult. And just to give you a hint about how it was almost 18 months in duration, which isn't that much to produce a medium. A medium, some people can produce a medium like Bill Collar, who's internationally known. He says about a year, in his courses, and that's, direct a year, nothing else, just mediumship. He has them working professionally. But in our class, we had 34 originally people, and we got down to about 12. People do drop out. It's worthwhile doing, but it's not always that easy. And then we ended up with 6. We had to go in front of the board of directors, who we didn't know, were relatively new to this game, and didn't know who they were or anything. And we had to give 3 readings to 3 of them out of 6. We didn't know where we were going. We were told to who we were going to go to. Didn't know anything about them, and provide evidence. And out of that, I think we got 3 or 4 out of the 6. And those people all 6 are working professionally within the Sarasota area. So as tough as it was really the best experience I've ever had. I became interested in what happens on the other side, or heaven, as I refer to it, because I had so much loss, like a lot of people. But I had lost my parents young. My mother when I was 7, my father when I was about 18, 19, a lot of cousins, aunts, and I didn't understand. And then when I lost my second husband, passed away, I was really mystified. The relationship, both my marriages were a little dicey, let me put it that way. But the second time, I was widowed. I was divorced the first time. That was the father of my daughter. And the second time I married, he died a few years after we were married. So there was a lot of unfinished business there. And I was very interested in how do people communicate with the departed. And so I began reading about that, and this is back when I was in New Jersey, and learned quite a bit Edgar Cayce, read the whole volumes of his work, visited the ARE Institute down in Virginia Beach, spent vacation down there learning about massotherapy, which is an oil-based massage where you almost drown the person in oil, which is supposed to be, usually you use a little oil during massage. This is a lot of oil, and it's very therapeutic. I learned some about hot packs and all the things that Ed Cayce would institute in his readings that he would bring forth as treatment. Also read a lot of the greats, like Sylvia Browne was big at that time. Also Ruth Montgomery, Jean Dixon, people like that. It was fascinating to me. And being raised a Catholic, it's sort of like nobody in my family knew about my interest. I don't think they would know how to answer me. I don't think it's something that we talked about. So it was like forbidden fruit almost, so I was totally engaged with that. Never thinking that I would actually do this. And it wasn't until I came to Sarasota and had the opportunity to study. What happened was I showed up at this Sarasota Center of Light. It was the Shrine of the Master at the time, which was started by Reverend Dorothy Flexer and her husband, Dr. Russell Flexer. They had a church in Tampa for a few years and opened one in Sarasota. This was at a time when Reverend Dorothy was not allowed to even put an ad in the paper announcing her services or what time the church services would be. The street that the church is on, and it's not just a church, she developed a learning center, Davis Hall, which was a recreational for parties, and with a full kitchen, 2 stoves, a whole 9 yards for cooking. They had the opportunity to buy several pieces of property on both sides of the street. So they have rental properties. They also have a small chapel where Reverend Dorothy, who was a direct voice medium, which probably would have been world famous if she had not chosen to go this route and teach and work within Sarasota. This is a long time ago. This facility has been here for 70 years this year. So a remarkable amount of teaching was done there. She would go into trance voices would come through her trumpet, an aluminum trumpet. Spirit used ectoplasm for her voice to come through, and she channeled several people like St. Francis of Assisi, many people like that, her doctors of philosophy and people like that. Very interesting work, which is all recorded and available to listen. There is a CD out on that and a book out about her life. You can contact the office there, Sarasota Center of Light, and they'll be glad to help you with that. You can look them up online. They have an online presence. And I learned a lot from the facility. I just showed up there, and it was so shabby chic kind of feeling that I felt like I was home. There's a beautiful rose garden. There is a chapel built where Dorothy worked. Beautiful, lovely wrought iron benches, and just a beautiful campus that when you step in there, you step onto the property, you just feel something tremendous, and I had never felt this before. So I went to a service there on a Sunday evening, which is the message service, and these two gentlemen, Reverend Tom Newman, Reverend Tim Dudley, were on the platform, which they call is like a stage in the sanctuary, and they were giving messages to the audience. And I looked at them and I said, that's what I want to do. Now, I was not young when I did this. I'm 63 now, so this is 12 years ago. And I came to this church to learn how to do this and immediately enrolled and went for classes and just loved it. It was hard, but it was very rewarding. So I say hard in the respect that there were a lot of people in my group that were probably, natural mediums. I didn't think I was, although I had seen a lot and heard a lot through Reiki, was my doorway into the spirit world, I would say. They had training and kind of would, and I've taught mediumship too. Some people will kind of say, oh, we didn't do it that way, But for me, it was like a blank slate, and I really absorbed everything and really enjoyed it. The fact that it clicked and it worked for me, I can't thank them enough. I've seen the Satin Circle there. I've seen physical things happen. I've seen trumpets fly around. I've seen some of the best mediums in the world, physical mediums as well. Just incredible work that you would not see many other places. So for me, it was a great experience. Anyway, so I am back there doing platform, which I enjoy. Platform mediumship is when you stand on a stage and you don't leave that stage. I was taught by one of the best platform mediums, Bill Collar, an excellent medium, and Shauna Spalding St. Clair, who recently passed away last year, was a fabulous Lilydale, New York medium, on how to present yourself, what to wear, what to say, the ethics, what you say in public, what you don't say in public, how to carry yourself. And I have to say, it is the most fun thing I've ever done, and I've been doing it, I guess, about 8 years now. It's my favorite thing to do. I would rather do platform mediumship than anything else. And I've done several different venues. I've done the Spirit University. I've done the Villages. I've done several women's groups. I've done other church groups. And there's something about being there, either holding a microphone or being hooked to a microphone and having absolutely no clue to who you're going to in that audience. Initially, we were taught to reach out. Whoever was glowing, looked like they needed a message, and they would kind of glow to me, so I would go there. And that's kind of hard. Sometimes people are not willing to or are taken by surprise that they are kind of called upon. May I come to you? And they say yes. Half of them don't know their relatives. That's how it goes. I've done it too. People have told me something, and I'm just blank, like a deer in the headlights. And then later, like 2 a.m., I'm like, oh, yeah, I know who that is. So the poor medium. I try to do it with respect. I try to do it with a sense of humor. I wholeheartedly believe that I am communicating with your loved ones. I ask them to give me evidence. I use my doorkeeper, Walter Henderson, which is another story, how I discovered him. And he is like my best man. He is the best guy in the world. Very communicative with me, and he arranges everything so that when I get there and I step on that platform, I don't have to look where I'm going or be directed. I will even ask people, okay, who would like a reading tonight? And they'll raise their hand. So I just wing it. I'm like, okay, let's go there. It is the most fun thing to do, even though it's a serious subject. People who are grieving, and as we know, grief doesn't have a time limit. It can hit you unawares after several years. I've noticed that I still get a tear in my eye about my mother or my father or my husband or a cousin or a friend that passed away. And it could have been many years. Sometimes it just blindsides you. It could be an activity that you're doing. It could be the holidays. It could be something. It's always touching for myself and for others to receive a legitimate evidential message. And that's the key, is the evidence that they bring forward. It's not, oh, I have your husband here and I'm holding a rose, he's holding a rose, and no, that's not evidence. Evidence would be a memory that you shared together, description of the communicator, the person that's passed, something that they always did, what they did for an occupation. Did they cook? Did they have dogs? Did they have, whatever. This is the kind of stuff that you ask Spirit to deliver so that your family and friends know that I have you in spirit and delivering a message. And Walter is the biggest help with that. So, anyway, that's what I like to do. I do private readings by phone, mostly. My website is Carolan, Carolan, Carey, Carey.com. I have a brand new website. I hope you enjoy it. I had to do it myself, and I am kind of a dolt when it comes to electronic stuff, but I've learned a lot over the few years trying to promote myself and working hard. I've worked a lot of events, and each one is unique and different. But this year, I've settled into doing the radio show, doing this live show, my private readings. I bought a house last year, so I'm trying to fix that. And I adopted a big mutt. He's 94 pounds, American Bulldog, who was crashing in the other room. Usually he's pretty good. He had cancer, and fortunately, through chemo and all of my spiritual healing friends, he has recovered, thank God, knock on wood, from multiple myeloma. I just got him in July, and by October, I realized there was something wrong. So when they told me he had cancer, it was like somebody had hit me in between the eyes, because I was looking forward to having this great companion, And here I have a 17-year-old Karen Terrier and a cat, and they're all old too, running around, and he wanted to bully everybody, but he's doing very well. He has recovered. I want to thank everyone that prayed for him and for spiritual healing. Reverend Lisa Johnson is a miracle worker. Jimmy Mack on the Jimmy Mack Show, absolutely phenomenal as well. Laura Romero is also, she has a new show on Blog Talk as well. Fabulous healer. I wouldn't have met these people, these interesting people, if I hadn't gone through this little line of work, Now it's become my passion. So I do hope that you will call in next week, and the number is 713-955-0594. My website is Carolan Carey. I have a little different spelling there because I am kind of odd. My website can give you all the information. You can book an appointment on there. I prefer to do scheduled readings so I know what I'm doing for the day. This week, I have a phenomenal guest coming on. Frequent radio guest, Psychic Joanne Leo, is coming to the Sarasota Center of Light tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Put your seatbelts on because she is phenomenal. With your initials and your date of birth, she can tell you who you are and what you're about. She's an especially good friend that I have met working the Psychic Fair circuit, as I call it, from St. Pete to Naples, Florida, and everywhere in between, for 10 years, which is kind of exhausting, but a lot of fun. And I have met a great group of professional practitioners in every line of work, in all of the psychic arts, and mediums as well, that are fabulous, and I hope to have them as guests on the show. I have a couple coming up, and that'll be fabulous. But we have Joanne Leo tomorrow night at Sarasota Center of Light. She is a frequent guest on Jimmy Mac's show, and she will be a guest on my show as well. So you get 2 for 1 when you call in on my show. She is dynamite. She's got interviews with me on Society Bites Radio, so please check that out if you want to know more about her. Also, what else is happening? January 12th, I will be at the Westfield Square Mall, and that's the first time I've worked that venue. This ought to be interesting. It is a Body, Mind, Spirit Wellness Expo. It's going to be fabulous. They have wonderful speakers and presenters and all kinds of activities going on. It's the first time I'm doing this particular fair. I've done others in the area, but this one's a little different. So please come drop by and see me. That's the Westfield Mall, the Square Mall, since we have 2 malls over there. We're big time here in Sarasota. So please give a shout out to that. We'd love to see you. I guess I'm professional now because I finally had a banner made so that people can find me. I worked psychic fairs for 10 years all over, and people would stumble across me and say, and not only was I the cheapest, I'm always the cheapest, because I feel like psychic fair is an introduction. So, and I don't like to make change. So usually I'm $20. I might beef it up this weekend to $30. You know, Mama's got to pay the rent, so there we go. I like people to be able to afford me. I have a sliding scale. Some people I do for nothing, but, you know, they've called me back and they've booked appointments, so it all works out in the end. People are in grief. They need to speak to their loved ones, and I try not to put anybody off. That's why I request scheduled appointments if I can do that. In any event, I would love to see you. Psychic Fair is, I work some really loud events, and have people. The first big psychic fair I did was Sarasota Mystic Fair. Thank you, Candace Strafford, for organizing all of those mystic fairs all over Florida. She is phenomenal. I don't know how she does it. The greatest fair in the Sarasota area, I would say in the Southwest Florida area. Fabulous. There are so many readers to choose from and vendors and things going on, and it can get a little chaotic. But I've had grieving families in front of me that the first time I went out and did this fair, I did like 25 readings and a 45-minute lecture and crawled home that night. And out of 4 of the readings were dead teenagers from a car accident, and then there were 2 teenage suicides. So it was a long, dramatic day for my first time out, but I made it through. These people were so anxious to know that their loved ones are okay, that they are in heaven, no matter what they did, and they wanted to have that last moment with them. And they've been repeat callers also, but they like to see you in person. I don't know why, but they feel better about that. So I do some psychic fairs in the area. I have to let you know, we're going to have guests that are going to make fun of me. I am not a hugger, don't like hugging. Sorry about that. People insist, can I give you a hug? Okay, you know. It's not that I hate it. It's just not that comfortable for me. And I do it because people are in grief or whatever. I'm like, you know, sort of like brushing a cat backwards. It just doesn't feel that great. But when people are in grief, you know, okay, what are you going to do? They need to hang on to somebody. I get that. So anyway, we're going to have some very exciting callers come be with us, guests with us. So please give us a call. And I'm sorry it didn't work out this week, but it will next week. And I look forward to hearing from you. This is In the Psychic Flow with your host, Carolan Carey. I hope that you will tune in again. I look forward to hearing from you. Any suggestions or any questions that you have, I love to talk about mediumship and the psychic arts. So please look forward to joining us next week, Thursday, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the phone number to call in, 713-955-0594. Thank you for joining and listening today. I hope to hear from you next week. Have a good week. Good night.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show.